ACT-SO Humanities Playwriting. Hello, my name is DeAndre Kamal Means, resident playwright and actor from Cincinnati, Ohio. How to achieve 100 points? How to choose a topic that brings emotional connection with the audience. How to choose a topic. One of the most interesting ways to create a topic is to find out what you like. First of all, what do you like to speak about? What kinds of things do you want to know more about so that you can do the research? What kinds of things that you already know things about that you can share with other people? That's number one. Another way to find a topic is to just look around yourself and see what current topics are going on. What current topics are of interest to people in the audience that you're trying to write for. Who are you trying to write this story for? Sometimes if you're more specific, it can even go to a broader audience of people. If you're speaking to a specific group of people that you want to tell a specific story to, then there may be other people that are interested in that story that you create. To demonstrate excellence and go beyond the minimum standards. Fine-tune your presentation to show confidence. Create interest and passion in the subject matter. Playwriting, a literary composition developed for the stage. Requirements. Number 1, 6 original notarized copies of a one-act play. Number 2, the play must be an original, written only by the contestant. Number 3, the play must be typed and double-spaced, not to exceed 20 pages. A one-page synopsis must be included. Number 4, the top of each page must include the contestant's name, page number, and unit name and number. Number 5, the contestant must be prepared to answer questions by the judges. Characterization. 10 points. Has there been an antagonist identified or protagonist identified? Are there characters in the play developed? Are there roles defined? Clarity. 10 points. Is the author's theme or purpose clearly stated? Content, 25 points. Is the subject matter interesting? Is it controversial and/or creative? Dialogue, 10 points. Is the word usage or phrasing consistent with the character? Does the dialogue advance the plot line or develop the character's background? Mechanics, 10 points. Is the manuscript clearly typed? Are there errors in spelling or grammar? Are the stage directions clearly stated? Are the setting and characters clearly indicated? And plot, 25 points. Has the storyline been clearly defined? Has the action of the play been chronologically developed? Is there evidence of exposition, complication, climax, and conclusion? Exposition. Exposition is the motivated revelation of the background of the character through the dialogue that you create. Complication. Complication is the conflict. Is there a clear conflict that the protagonist has in the story? Are many of the characters, do they have some obstacles in the way of what they're trying to acquire? Climax. What's the turning point in the play? What is the motivating thing that changes the trajectory of the story? In conclusion, what is the ending aspect of your play? In a conclusion, sometimes there is a resolution or a solution to the problem that is introduced through the conflict. Style, 10 points. Has the playwright developed a definitive method or style? Write. The best tip in playwriting, from my perspective and my writing experiences, is to write things within a short amount of time. Give yourself a timeline. Within a week, for one act, you should be finished with your play. Tip number 2, edit. After you have written and free-written for a while, sometimes I like to write and just write and not even take my pencil or pen up from the page or stop typing for an extended amount of time. Then you can go over those things and edit them. Also, a play is different than when you're writing a short story or a poem or a novel, because the forward momentum of the play is moving, 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 just like when you're driving until you go into the red light. And when the red light happens, it's time for you to stop, right? So you want the play to continue to have that motivating movement that's going on with it. The best thing also for a play is to be heard. A play is meant to be heard, right? We might have creative ideas and thoughts about what it is that we're writing, but the voices that we've created and the dialogue that we've created with these characters are meant to be heard. So make sure that when you're doing your editing, you have somebody that can give you some feedback. So get a mentor. Another tip, before you submit in your editing process, get you some actors. A play is meant to be heard. So if you can get a group of actors together to play the characters that you've written, then it'll be great for you to hear how your words sound through the voices of other. Characters are three-dimensional characters. They're not just black words on white pages, right? You want to hear your words alive and breathing. So before you submit your play, after you've created and done all the work that you need to do within that 1 week that we talked about of giving yourself a timeline, because you can do all kinds of edits after you've created the gist of the story, is to get you a group of actors together so that they can hear the play that you've written, so that you can hear the play that you've written. See it through to the end. Don't give up. We are our worst critics. So whatever you've created, trust yourself and don't give up. Follow through to the end. Edit, 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 and write, write, write. Oh, and a couple of other things that you can add for helpful tips in the competition. Creating emotion in a play deals with the character development that you have built and the relationships that they have with each other. Once you have found the relationship and how they relate with each other, you can look at the inner environment of the characters. What's going on within the characters that got them to the point of which your story is being told. Emotions evolve from the actions that they have to take to overcome the obstacles that you have placed in the story. We talked about that a little bit earlier. So if the characters don't have any kind of conflict, if they don't have any kind of obstacles that they're trying to overcome to gain, then you can't really develop emotional responses to how they're going to react to it. So make sure that you're looking at the development of the characters and the inner environment. The life, the story, where did they come from? How did they get here? What religion are they? How old are they? What communities do they come from? What have they gone through? How did they get over the obstacles that were in the way? And then emotion will emerge from there. Imagery. Imagery in your story comes from the descriptive language that you use, the adjectives, the literary devices that you use within the text itself, the colorful language that you decide to use that share what the environment is. How do you create the audience who is listening to your story or watching your story see things that may not even be in the play itself? But what language are you using? How is your vocabulary used to express the imagery that you want in the setting of your play? Creating interest in your play is all about making sure that you're doing some stuff that you're thinking outside the box with. Stories happen. There's nothing new, basically, under the sun. So how do you approach it as the playwright? What would make your telling of the story different than the way that I would tell the story? How do you create the interest? You create the interest by thinking outside the box and doing some unconventional things. Sometimes you might want to do some stuff that you know won't fit in the story. You could just think as big and as broad as you want to think. And then in the editing process, you can decide what works and what doesn't work. You might surprise yourself. One of the ways to create interest is to do free writing in your writing. Sometimes I write 5 minutes at a time with not putting my pencil or pen or not typing, or not putting my fingers up from typing for an extended amount of time, and all kinds of ideas can come from that. One thing that I like to do in playwriting that happens in script development is storyboarding. So if you like to draw, or if you can't draw, you do stick people, Or if you can't draw and don't feel comfortable in doing that, and you just put words in blocks of time within the scenes that you've created. If you want to do a one-act play, you say, I want 7 scenes. And each block of time, I decide what imagery I want to be in there, what characters will be a part of it, and how the flow of the story, the through line through each of the characters. Within that, in the writing process, as you're developing the story, you can go to another aspect of writing with doing Venn diagrams, where you are branching off, if you know what a Venn diagram is, branching off ideas from the different points of the central idea of the story. This is the theme of my story. So in Venn diagramming, you can storyboard, do a web, and then you put another circle in there and put other ideas that cross over, the things that connect and the things that are different. When I do a Venn diagram, then I can anticipate what possibly questions people would have about why I chose to do certain things in the story. So for you, as you're writing, if you create yourself a Venn diagram, a web first with the central idea with all the things around it, you can Venn diagram, put 2 circles, merge them together like this where they have a cross section where things are crossing over and then there are things that are different, and anticipate questions that people might have about what it is that you've written. And that's how you'll achieve 100 points.